The room was packed. The summer sunlight streamed through the stained glass, illuminating rows of eager faces. Families, longtime congregation members, and curious onlookers had all gathered for what was supposed to be a routine Sunday service. But what no one expected was that the service would end in stunned silence, whispers, and a scene that would be replayed across social media for weeks. Gabriel Swaggart, the charismatic preacher, son of the famed Jimmy Swaggart Ministries, was standing at the pulpit, delivering his sermon with his usual blend of passion and authority. But today, there was a different tension in the air, a subtle crack in the polished veneer that the Swaggart family had long maintained. Jennifer Swaggart spoke. Her words were calm, yet piercing, slicing through the air like a sharp blade. She didn't raise her voice, she didn't shout, she didn't even point a finger, yet the effect was immediate. Gabriel froze. His hands tightened around the edges of the pulpit, his eyes flickered toward her, and for the first time in years, the audience saw doubt in Gabriel Swaggart's gaze. And then, as if the ground beneath him had shifted, Gabriel did the unthinkable. He turned on his heel and walked off the pulpit, leaving the congregation in absolute shock. Cameras rolled, phones captured every second, social media was set ablaze within minutes. For many, it was an act of courage. For others, an embarrassment. But for insiders, it was the inevitable eruption of years of tension, secrets, and simmering resentment that had long plagued the Swaggart family. To understand the full gravity of what unfolded that Sunday, one must look back at the Swaggart family history. The Swaggarts have long been a household name in evangelical circles, celebrated for their dedication to ministry, but also infamous for internal conflicts and scandals. Gabriel, though younger and perhaps more modern in his approach, has always lived under the shadow of his father Jimmy, his uncle Donnie, and even the extended network of family allies who maintain control over ministry decisions. Jennifer Swaggart, meanwhile, has carved out her own space in the ministry, often praised for her empathy, charisma, and spiritual insight. But behind the scenes, sources say, she has frequently clashed with Gabriel over ministry decisions, family dynamics, and personal approaches to faith. According to insiders, the tension between Gabriel and Jennifer had been simmering for years. It wasn't just a disagreement over Sunday sermons or theological interpretations. It was a deeply personal struggle that touched on pride, respect, and influence within the ministry. Gabriel, often seen as the golden boy of the church, has been under immense pressure to uphold the Swaggart legacy. Jennifer, equally dedicated, has long advocated for a more compassionate and transparent approach, a philosophy that sometimes collided directly with Gabriel's assertive style. Church staff members and longtime congregation insiders say this Sunday was the culmination of months of subtle but escalating confrontations. There had been whispered arguments, behind closed doors, tense exchanges during planning meetings, and even moments of visible discomfort during joint appearances. But no one expected it to erupt so publicly. As Jennifer delivered her words, there was a mix of love, warning, and undeniable authority in her voice. What she said was not meant to shame but to confront, and the weight of it was almost unbearable. Gabriel's reaction, a walk off the pulpit, was shocking, yes, but also revealing, exposing the raw human side of a family often seen as untouchable. The congregation sat frozen. Some clutched their pews, others gasped audibly, and a few brave souls whipped out their phones to capture the moment. The silence stretched, broken only by the subtle shuffle of feet and the quiet sobbing of those who had followed the Swaggarts faithfully for decades. Outside, the story spread faster than wildfire. Clips of Gabriel walking off circulated on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, each viewer speculating about what words could possibly provoke such a dramatic reaction. Church forums lit up with debate. Headlines began forming even before the service ended. Gabriel Swaggart walks out in shock. Jennifer Swaggart confronts Gabriel in public. Family tensions explode. The Swaggart legacy faces its biggest test yet. But those inside the church that day knew the truth. This was more than a dramatic exit. It was the visible eruption of years of unspoken struggles, unhealed wounds, and a clash of personalities that had quietly defined the Swaggart family dynamic. And for many, it was the moment they realized the Swaggarts, despite their ministry's grand image, were just as human, just as flawed, and just as capable of emotional upheaval as anyone else. The moment Jennifer's words landed, time seemed to slow. Gabriel's hands gripped the pulpit tighter, his knuckles whitening. The congregation watched, some whispering nervously, others frozen with disbelief. It wasn't just what she said, it was the way she said it. Calm, unwavering, and filled with an authority that pierced every corner of the room. Gabriel's usually confident demeanor faltered. His voice, strong and commanding just moments ago, trembled slightly. A bead of sweat traced his temple. Congregants leaned forward, straining to hear, sensing the tension that had silently built for months, now erupting in front of everyone. "I love this ministry," Jennifer's voice echoed softly but sharply. "And I love each of you, but we cannot ignore the truths we keep hidden, not from God and not from ourselves." The weight of her words hit Gabriel like a physical force. He opened his mouth, then closed it, his jaw tightening. The audience could feel the storm building inside him, a mix of shock, anger, and something deeper, regret perhaps, or guilt. And then it happened. Gabriel slowly turned his back on the congregation. Murmurs rippled through the church. Some gasped audibly, clutching their pews. Others froze, cameras raised, capturing the moment that would soon dominate headlines. He walked toward the exit, his steps deliberate, measured, yet heavy with emotion. Every footfall seemed to echo in the stunned silence of the church. Some tried to call him back. "Gabriel, wait!" But he didn't respond. Not a word, not a glance. The pulpit, once the center of his power, now felt empty and almost cold, a stark symbol of vulnerability exposed. The congregation sat in disbelief. For decades they had witnessed countless sermons, passionate speeches, and family messages delivered with precision. But never had they seen a Swaggart family member so publicly shaken, so visibly human. Whispers turned into chatter. Questions flew. What did she say? Was it about the ministry, or something more personal? Cameras captured faces frozen in shock, some covering their mouths, others with tears welling up. Longtime church members later admitted they had never felt an energy like that in the sanctuary. Charged, electric, and utterly unsettling. Outside, the news spread like wildfire. Clips from the service were uploaded within minutes. On YouTube, views skyrocketed by the thousands. Instagram stories and TikTok videos replayed the moment again and again. Social media erupted with debate. Some defended Gabriel, praising him for needing space to process such a profound confrontation. Others praised Jennifer, hailing her courage and calling her words the wake-up call this ministry desperately needed. Inside the church, murmurs began to coalesce into conversations. Some congregants whispered about Jennifer's exact words, recalling the calm but undeniable authority in her voice. Others focused on Gabriel's reaction, the walk off the pulpit, his face a mask of raw emotion, the subtle trembling that betrayed a storm inside him. Church staff members later revealed that in the minutes leading up to Jennifer's statement, there had been subtle signs of tension. Gabriel had hesitated over his notes, paused mid-sentence, and glanced repeatedly toward the side of the stage where Jennifer stood. The insiders said they sensed that something monumental was about to happen, but no one could have predicted the sheer drama of what unfolded. For Gabriel, walking off the pulpit was not just a reaction, it was a release. Years of pressure, expectation, and internal conflict had accumulated, and in that single shocking moment, it all poured out. Observers later noted the mixture of emotions on his face: hurt, frustration, exhaustion, and perhaps even a reluctant respect for the truth Jennifer had just spoken. The service continued after he left, but the energy had shifted irrevocably. Some church members stayed seated, stunned, processing what they had just witnessed. Others wept quietly, realizing that this moment, Gabriel walking off the pulpit, was not just about family tension, but about truths confronting power and honesty shaking long-held hierarchy. By the time Gabriel returned to the stage hours later for private conversations and personal apologies, the moment had already become legendary. News outlets, social media, and gossip forums were abuzz. Analysts debated what it meant for the Swaggart family, the ministry, and Gabriel's future role. Some insiders even suggested that the incident could signal a shift in the family dynamic. Jennifer's words had not just challenged Gabriel, they had challenged the status quo, forcing the family and the congregation to confront questions long avoided. In the end, what seemed like a shocking public confrontation was actually a turning point, a moment where truth, courage, and raw emotion collided in front of hundreds of witnesses and millions more watching online. The moment Gabriel walked off the pulpit didn't just shock the congregation, it sent ripples far beyond the church walls. By the time the service ended, videos of the incident had already gone viral. Clips on Instagram and TikTok racked up hundreds of thousands of views within hours, each replay sparking fresh debate. Twitter exploded with hashtags like #GabrielWalksOut, #JenniferCallsOut, and #SwaggartDrama, trending nationwide almost instantly. Comment sections were a battleground of opinions. Some viewers wrote passionately in support of Gabriel, praising his vulnerability and humanity. Others applauded Jennifer for her courage, calling her the voice of truth the Swaggart ministry desperately needed. Some posts didn't hold back. "This is the Swaggart family as we've never seen them," raw, human, and exposed. Inside the church, reactions were just as intense. Congregants who had been sitting quietly during the service now crowded in small groups, exchanging shocked whispers. Some were visibly shaken, unable to comprehend the emotional gravity of what had just happened. Others were reflective, realizing that the incident was about far more than a single sermon. It was a window into the complicated, sometimes messy, reality of family life behind the pulpit. Longtime members shared their insights. "I've seen the Swaggarts for decades, but nothing like this," one elderly congregant said, tears in her eyes. You could feel the tension the moment Jennifer spoke, and when Gabriel left, it was like the entire room went silent. Staff members who were behind the scenes confirmed that the confrontation had been brewing for months. According to insiders, there had been repeated disagreements between Gabriel and Jennifer about ministry direction, public messaging, and even small leadership decisions. Though these conflicts had often been discreet, they had intensified over the past year, leading to mounting pressure that finally erupted on that unforgettable Sunday. Some church members speculated that this incident could mark a turning point in the Swaggart family hierarchy. If Gabriel's emotional response was a sign of vulnerability, it might create opportunities for Jennifer's approach to gain more influence. Others warned that the public confrontation could deepen divisions within the family, with Donnie, Francis, and other leaders forced to navigate the fallout carefully. Meanwhile, social media continued to churn. Influencers and online commentators dissected every frame of the viral clips. Some noted the subtle tremor in Gabriel's hands, the brief flicker of emotion in his eyes, and the way the congregation collectively held its breath. Others speculated about what Jennifer could have said behind those calm, piercing words, suggesting that she had exposed truths that even the congregation had not realized. News outlets quickly picked up the story, framing it as a major Swaggart family event. Headlines varied from neutral reporting to sensationalized versions. Gabriel Swaggart walks out mid-service. Jennifer Swaggart's words shock congregation. Family feud or spiritual awakening? Swaggart Ministries shake. Inside the tension, Jennifer Swaggart confronts Gabriel publicly. What it means for the ministry. Even those outside the evangelical world took notice. Online forums,